हेलो एवरीवन, सुखन अनप्लग्ड की एक और एपिसोड में आपको खुशामदीद कहते हैं. टुडे वी आर बैक टू आवर लिटरेचर सीरीज एंड वी हैव अ वेरी एक्साइटिंग एपिसोड फॉर यू. So today we have Miss Ayesha with us. First of all, thank you so much for giving us time.
Thank you, Hamad, for doing this.
हमने आयशा को क्यों इनवाइट किया है, मुझसे क्या बात करेंगे इसके मतलब चलूँ. प्रोफेशनली यू एन एजुकेशनिस्ट, पढ़ाती रही हैं और आई वॉज एट हर बुक लॉन्च एज वेल और काफ़ी स्टूडेंट्स वहाँ पे आए थे और बड़ी एक्साइटमेंट थी. सो आई एम श्योर शी इज़ अ ग्रेट टीचर एज आई कुड सी फ्रॉम देयर रिएक्शंस. बट मोर इम्पॉर्टेंटली इनका भी डेब्यू नॉवल आया है. सो वी आर गोइंग टू टॉक अबाउट दैट. उसके पीछे क्या सोच थी, क्या पर्सपेक्टिव था, कैसा रिस्पॉन्स आया है, एंड लास्टली जो हमारा फेवरेट क्वेश्चन होता है कि अगली बुक आपकी कब आ रही है. बट फर्स्ट वंस अगेन थैंक यू फॉर गिविंग अस टाइम टुडे. सो थोड़ा हम शुरू करते हैं डिफरेंट क्वेश्चन. सो लॉट ऑफ टाइम्स वी रीड बुक्स और हम बचपन से पढ़ते आ रहे हैं और आप पढ़ाती भी रही हैं. बट एट व्हाट पॉइंट यू डिसाइडेड कि अच्छा बहुत पढ़ लिया, अब मुझे कुछ स्टोरी सुनानी है, मुझे कुछ बताना है, आई हैव टू राइट समथिंग.
जी, thank you, Hamad, for being here. Thank you for organizing this and for reading the book and appreciating it. Thank you so much. So, at what point did I want to tell a story? I think I was in my 20s when I wanted to tell a story. So, उस वक्त जो था, I wanted to write about issues that were important to me. मैं कई चीज़ें around injustices जो देखती थी उसके बारे में लिखना चाहती थी. But of course, I mean, I had young children and career and also वो head space, वो time मिला ही नहीं कभी उस time पे. But it was then much later when my older two children were away and I had more time to myself. Work was also kind of more steady and all of that. That's when I decided that I wanted to tell a story of a woman. And by that time, I mean, when I started writing, I think I was in my 40s. And of course, us waqt tak, I had a lot of experiences behind me, life experiences, work-life experiences, talking to women, sharing stories, all of that. And so I thought I want to write a story about a woman. And right. So it was in my 40s when I thought, now I'm ready to tell the story.
But by the time you were 40 and obviously you had a lot of experiences, so you had a lot of stories to tell as well.
Yes.
You have met a lot of women, you have a lot of, you had shared a lot of personal and professional experiences with them. So फिर उसको हमने tone down कैसे किया कि this is the kind of story I want to tell?
So, I've worked in an all-female environment. Then, I mean, I have a lot of women friends, more women friends than men friends. By and large, I felt एक similar story मैं सुन रही थी about women being unhappy in a certain situation, women not being given the right to choose, not having the freedom to be a certain way, etc., etc. So एक recurrent theme बन गई, recurrent pattern मुझे नज़र आने शुरू हो गया. So that's why I decided to write about all these things. A loveless marriage, for example, it's very common, more common than we think, right? And also, more importantly, the novel is not so much about a loveless marriage. It is, but it is more about a woman's growth, mental growth, mental journey, the anguish, depressions, all of those things, what kind of impact they have on an individual. So I had, so एक recurrent सी बात बार एक ही बात हो रही थी different तरीक़ों से. If you look at, I look at my ancestors, उनकी stories of courage, of perseverance, of compromise. So I thought I want to write a story about a woman who is not given a choice. How does she react to that? And also to हमारी जो society where we want to brush a lot of these things under the carpet. ये जो especially आपकी जो mental illness तो नहीं है उसमें, but she's going through a very emotionally taxing, difficult time where she has no outlet, कुछ समझ नहीं आ रही. In my character, I saw that with a lot of women that I met, that nobody wants to talk about it. So everybody says that या तो you're far away from religion, or you're not grateful enough, or you're just self-indulgent. You're selfish, you think too much about yourself, focus on XYZ. So ये चीज़ें बार, and I felt that I needed to write about this.
And I think all of this led you to the title as well.
Yes.
ये title जो है यही app title होता है. अच्छा, so one of the things that I often talk about to different authors is that we see that women stories, अब खैर हम और कॉन्टेक्स्ट में बात करें कि साउथ एशियन की स्टोरीज जो फॉरेन ऑथर्स बता रहे हैं, बट इन दिस पर्टिकुलर केस वी हैव अ वुमन हु इज़ राइटिंग अबाउट story of a woman as well. Yes. So you talked about कि आपके kind of pros या advantages क्या थे कि you had a lot of circle, आपका experiences थे, but what are the unique challenges जो आपको थे in this particular context?
challenges while writing. जी. So as I was writing, कई दफ़ा I used to get stuck in terms of, okay, what does she do next? You know, how do I take this forward? So I'm thinking about, you know, what connects to the previous. अब मैंने ये बता दिया, शादी तो हो गई, बच्चे भी, अब आगे क्या होना चाहिए? So you know, there were so many things I toyed with the idea of maybe the husband having an affair, and I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. Then, you know, her doing some, matlab, her maybe pursuing higher education or doing XYZ with her life, I let go of that idea also. Then I felt that let me talk about things that are not really talked about. Let me show a woman who does something which is not right, the consequences of that, but also her emerging triumphant. Because मैंने जो literature पढ़ाया है, मैंने, मेरी ज़्यादा knowledge classics की है as opposed to modern literature है, but I've taught a lot of classics and taught a lot of, you know, playwrights like Shakespeare and all that. उनमें इस तरह women, for example, if you look at Anna Karenina also, she has an affair, but at the end she jumps in front of the train. Many times टेस्ट में भी देख लें, women have to either die, और पुराने वक्तों में ऐसे ही था ताकि उनको वो मिल जाए, you know, forgiveness or whatever. So I felt that, okay, I'll have a woman who has done all of this, but she also triumphs at the end. She doesn't have to die. She suffered enough. So ये challenges थे. Where do I take the story, kind of? So उसमें थोड़ा सा मैं कई बार रुक जाती थी. Characters जो बनाए मैंने, for example, initially they were just two sisters. And then I thought, when I was moving along, that, you know, patriarchy जो है उसको दिखाने के लिए maybe I need to add a brother. This is the suggestion, my Indian editor, she gave me the suggestion कि think about perhaps removing the sister, adding a brother to highlight this aspect. What do you think? So I thought about, इस तरह से evolve करती गई. So I would say challenge as such challenge नहीं था, but challenge ये था कि how do I make sure that the themes that are important to me are brought forward, but in a creative, interesting way that the reader wants to read on and doesn't get tired. और ना sermonizing ना भी ना लगे कि आप कोई lecture दे रहे हैं किसी को.
What about writer block? जब आप ऐसे किसी में stuck हो जाती थी, तो फिर what was your way out?
So yeah, that's something Musharraf actually had suggested. कई दफ़ा होता था, अब क्या लिखूँ, अब story को कहाँ लेके जाऊँ, अब, you know, how do I describe this or that? So he used to tell me, okay, take a break from just leave it for 2 weeks, leave the novel for 2 weeks, or
Is it easy?
Take it easy.
Is it easy to leave it for 2 weeks?
No, it's not easy, because मैं तो वो नहीं कर सकती. I used to go back after 2-3 days, but his suggestion to me was, and I think it did work, कि थोड़ी देर के लिए disengage from it, read something else, watch something else. But his focus and stress was कि read something else, read another light story, read something else, do something else. I mean, I used to sometimes just leave it, walk, think. But the thing is that when I was writing, I don't think एक भी दिन गुजरा होगा जब मैंने इसके बारे में नहीं सोचा. Not a single day, not a single, you know, it was at the back of my mind throughout, and I loved it.
And how long was this process?
So 2019 is when I completed the novel. शुरू भी किया 2019 beginning में, और December 2019 में ख़त्म कर लिया.
Good fun year.
Great fun year. I loved it. Very challenging also in many ways, but उसके बाद editing का process शुरू हुआ. Editing was even more fun. I felt frustrating, but so much fun. So फिर total आप कह लें 2019, अब छपा 2013 में. So all these years I was editing, and फिर बीच में breaks भी आ जाती थी. When I would give something to Simar to read, it would take her some time to get back to me. So those were some breaks.
So originally जो आपने लिखा था, और खैर स्टोरी तो मोरल वही रहेगी, बट वो एक जो मसला होता है इवन एडिटिंग वीडियोस और पॉडकास्ट, तो वो कहीं होता है कि यार ये पार्ट नहीं निकालना, बट यू हैव टू टेक इट आउट टू स्क्वीज आउट. सो इस तरह के कोई इंटरेस्टिंग एडिटोर जो फाइनली कट में नहीं आया आपके फिर बुक में?
जी, काफ़ी कुछ नहीं आया. सो फॉर एग्जांपल आई हैड, जो मैंने जैसे आपको बताया, माय कैरेक्टर गोज़ अब्रॉड, एंड दैट वाज अगेन दैट वाज टेकन फ्रॉम माय ओन एक्सपीरियंस. क्योंकि वो मेरा एक्सपीरियंस है, तो इट वाज ईजी टू राइट अबाउट इट. जो एक्सपीरियंसेस मेरे नहीं थी उनको लिखना मुश्किल लगा. बट एनीवे, सो दैट इंटायर सेक्शन मुशर्रफ जस्ट कट. ही वाज लाइक, नोप, नॉट हैपनिंग. एंड देन और क्या मैंने, yes, so then there was a whole section on just therapy. It was much longer. Right. That also, you know, we sort of decided that perhaps a lot of the understanding that she gets, ज़रूरी नहीं है that she gets it through therapy alone. Right. That's what I was showing initially. She should get a lot of that understanding as she grows, matures, and moves on in life. a natural process, plus she needs to be at the right stage to acknowledge कि हाँ मुझे थेरेपी की ज़रूरत है, and which when it is going to be effective also. तो उस तरह की चीज़ें कट पिट हुई हैं. लाइक आई सेड कैरेक्टर्स कटे हैं कुछ. हाँ, सो इनिशियली आई हैड अ ह्यूज सॉर्ट ऑफ, मैंने जो रखा हुआ था, देयर वर लॉट्स ऑफ कैरेक्टर्स, ग्रैंड पेरेंट्स एंड इन लॉज एंड फादर इन लॉ की फैमिली, मदर इन लॉ की अलहदा फैमिली, देन हर ओन फैमिली वाज एक्सटेंसिव, बहनें, चचास, दिस दैट दी अदर. सो वी सॉर्ट ऑफ मेड इट अ स्मॉलर कैनवस.
इट स्टिल साउंड रियलिस्टिक. ऑब्वियसली हम जब अपने इर्द गिर्द देखते हैं तो इस तरह की फैमिलीज होती हैं, बट आई एम श्योर कि जब एक नॉवल पढ़ने बैठे तो एट सम पॉइंट यू कैन गेट कन्फ्यूज्ड इफ देयर आर टू मैनी कैरेक्टर्स. सो टॉकिंग अबाउट राइटिंग स्टाइल्स ना बात कर रहे थे, आपने क्लासिक्स पढ़ाती हैं, यू स्टडी क्लासिक्स, यू हैव taught classes. So what are some of the inspirations you had as a reader which somewhat reflects in your writing?
Ji, sure. So I was deeply influenced by, I loved teaching Shakespeare. I loved it. How he develops character. कई develop नहीं भी होते हैं, कई बहुत वो होते हैं वन डायमेंशनल उसके कैरेक्टर्स. सम ऑफ देम आर लिटिल मोर, लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल मैकबेथ इज़ वन ऑफ माय फेवरेट प्लेज, एंड आई फील दैट द वे शेक्सपियर हैज़ डिस्क्राइब्ड हिज मेंटल एंग्विश, the inner and outer world of Macbeth is very I kind of had that in mind when I was writing about Noor's inner and outer world, and the use of supernatural in Shakespearean plays and all of that. कुछ मैंने उसकी element डालने की कोशिश की है through the dreams and all. Then Dickens was a huge influence. I love his descriptions. And शुरू में जब मैंने novel लिखा तो I used to describe, for example, if I'm describing a garden or flowers, I'll describe the petal and the veins and even if I was describing a character, उसकी शक्ल, उसकी हर चीज़ मैंने. So मुशर्रफ ने काफ़ी सारा वो भी cut किया because he said it had become tedious reading. So I took from the previous masters जो वो बहुत describe करते थे. I'm not saying I'm anything close to that, but वो मैं style automatically उसकी इस तरह से लिख रही थी. But again, for me, what has always attracted me is simple writing, dialogue, good dialogue, and heartfelt emotions that are coming across via dialogue. I saw that in Great Expectations a lot. I read, I was moved by it a lot, and then Shakespeare की बहुत सारे plays, and then so many, I can't even, it's just too many, so many years of influence that कहीं ना कहीं से I was picking on the previous writers.
Conscious, subconsciously, it's working.
Yeah.
So इसी में आपने डायलॉग की बात की. So obviously for those conversations to happen, you need strong characters, you need well developed characters. So characters, जिसने आपने बात की, कई दफ़ा आपको होता था कि अच्छा मैं स्टोरी को कहाँ लेके जाऊँ. So it means you were very sure about the characters first, and you had a broad plot line, if that's the case.
Yes.
So it evolved in a bit.
It evolved. Actually, दोनों चीज़ें evolved side by side की थी. But yes, I was very sure. So two things came together in my head कि ये story होगी of a woman, and इस तरह से उसका marriage and all of that. And I knew कि it'll be husband wife तो हैं ही हैं. Parents भी हैं, in-laws भी हैं. आगे जाके जो जिस तरह friend का character को important ज़्यादा मैंने बना दिया because she didn't have a sister. Similarly, so both the plot and the characters evolved as I moved along, as it made sense to me, But initially, yes, I had these two characters, their families, and a basic plot in mind together.
और ऐसा कोई character आपको जो पहले envision नहीं किया था, but turned out to be a very important character and kind of changed the storyline in comparison to what you had originally in your mind?
Idris.
I'm not going to tell you about that character. खुद किताब पढ़ें. अच्छा, so जिस तरह हम बात कर रहे थे कि a lot of social issues को आपने address किया है, and we talked about mental health as well. Now these are the topics which can be at times sensitive to write about. Mental health पे हम बात करते हैं तो lot of misinformation is there, a lot of perspectives. जिस तरह आपने कहा religion से दूरी है, आप जो है वो नमाज नहीं पढ़ते, आपने 4 साल से कुरान नहीं पढ़ा, and this is just one aspect of it. Otherwise ये exist ही नहीं करता, इस तरह की चीज़ें. So when you're writing about these topics, these sensitive relationships or topics like mental trauma, mental illness, challenges वगैरह, so what kind of research, what kind of SOPs you follow?
Research तो मैंने as such, I've been a student of psychology in college, but that is just very basic understanding of psychology in BA, जो कि 1000 साल पहले मैंने पढ़ा था. But
उसमें भी आई थिंक बायोलॉजी कई दफ़ा ज़्यादा रोल ले लेती है कि ये हाइपोथैलेमस और बस तरह की मोटी चीज़ें करके।
मैंने वो FA BA में पढ़ा था, तो मुझे शौक बहुत था साइकोलॉजी का भी, एंड हाउ द ह्यूमन माइंड वर्क्स रियली, नॉट सो मच इन बायोलॉजी एज द अदर थेरेपी. सो व्हाट आई डिड वाज दैट आई रेड अ कपल ऑफ, जैसे एक है अर्विन यालोम, ही इज़ अ साइकाइट्रिस्ट, वेरी वेल नोन साइकाइट्रिस्ट इन अमेरिका. उनकी किताबें हैं, जैसे एक है आई थिंक लव्स एक्सिक्यूशनर, एक है, मुझे एग्जैक्ट टाइटल याद नहीं है, where he has written stories about his sessions with his therapist. ज़ाहिर है थोड़ा सा fictionalize करके, and he's shown the problem and then how he dealt with it and how they came out of it. And then एक Laurie Gottlieb हैं psychiatrist, जिनकी psychotherapist I think, जिनकी मैंने again similar किताब पढ़ी, what it's called maybe you should talk to someone. So इस तरह की किताबें पढ़ी, and also at one point in my life I opted for therapy myself. So it was coming from that kind of awareness ke when I was approaching 40, I knew that I wanted more from life and from myself. And there were certain feelings I was feeling which I felt for to understand what my triggers are. I knew then that I wanted to speak to someone who is not a parent, who is not a friend, who is not a relative. बिकॉज जो आपके आस पास थे, एटलीस्ट मेरे एक्सपीरियंस में दे वर ऑफ कोर्स योर वेल विशर्स, बट उनको समझ ही नहीं थी. सो दैट्स वेयर आई पर्सनली ऑल्सो हर्ड एक्सप्रेस ग्रैटिट्यूड, डू दिस डू दैट, जो कि सब कुछ किया, नहीं हेल्प किया. एंड देन आई डिसाइडेड, ओके, लेट मी टेक सम वर्कशॉप्स, और somebody was conducting a workshop, somebody from India over here, वो मैंने की, and I enjoyed it, and then I thought maybe I need to have a therapy session with and understand myself. So I did it myself, and that helped me tremendously, at least for me to understand at the age of 40 there is something called self love, which does not have to be selfish. I understood कि boundary भी कोई चीज़ है, and to be honest you might think it's strange, but I did not know the meaning of self love or a boundary, or I did not know कि ये चीज़ होती भी कोई चीज़ है. In my generation at least मुझे ये अवेयरनेस नहीं थी, एंड मेरे जैसे और भी लोग थे जिनको नहीं अवेयरनेस थी. सो माई रिसर्च तो ऐसा सच मैंने नहीं की, बट इट केम फ्रॉम माई ओन एक्सपीरियंस. एंड देन ऑल्सो सम ऑफ माई फ्रेंड्स अराउंड मी, 1 or 2 क्लोज फ्रेंड्स who also opted for therapy. So it's coming from there, and my interest in कि क्या होता है आपके दिमाग में, what is going on, subconscious level क्या होता है, conscious level क्या होता है, I mean just basic understanding. So I don't want to delve too much into it कि मैं कोई गलत चीज़ बोलूँ, लेकिन what I do want to say is that many times I think women should, it would be it's important for women to recognize when they feel they are slipping, and to find some means of support if they can, and to not be so hard on themselves. I think we are very often hard on ourselves because we are conditioned to be that.
Exactly. I was going to say that कि हमें ज़्यादा यही सिखाया जाता है, how to be hard on ourselves and man up, for example, and that's not commenting. And I will be 40 in like 2-3 years, so I could see कि अच्छा काफ़ी बातें मैं भी relate कर रहा था साथ साथ कि by the time I'm going to अच्छा यार ये भी कर ले, this is going fine, this going, but वो एक बट रह जाता है. बट totally understandable. And I think इसमें एक जो अच्छी चीज़ ये भी है कि when it's coming from a personal experience, it's coming from something you have studied out of interest, not just कि अच्छा मैं कोई रिसर्च करूँ किताब के लिए. So it also comes out as authentic and honest. So even अगर मैं उससे एग्जाम्पल के तौर पे एग्री नहीं भी कर रहा, बट इट्स समथिंग मैं कहूँगा हाँ यार ठीक है, उस बंदे की ये फीलिंग है, उसकी ये सोच है, मेरी ये फीलिंग है, मेरी ये सोच है. सेकेंड पार्ट वॉज के रिलेशनशिप्स. यू वर डिस्क्राइबिंग देसी फैमिली एंड यू आर इंट्रोड्यूसिंग इट टू अ देसी ऑडियंस एज वेल. सो उसमें क्या चीज़ें थी यू केप्ट इन माइंड के इन चीज़ों को मैंने बिल्कुल परवाह नहीं करनी, बट दिस इज समथिंग दैट आई वांट टू वर्क विद इन.
आई थिंक मैंने काफ़ी हद तक चैलेंज किया है, and I feel that I mean these are all the things that actually happen, we just don't talk about it. Good girls don't do this. Good strong men don't cry wali situation. It's very silly, I feel. So I was initially when I wrote it, मैं किसी के बारे में सोच नहीं रही थी, बस मैं लिख रही थी as I knew life, right? Some of it कुछ चीज़ें जो मैंने एक्सपीरियंस की हैं, कुछ चीज़ें जो मैंने देखी हैं अराउंड मी. सो नूर इज़ अ कल्बिनेशन ऑफ मैनी पीपल. सो व्हेन आई वाज जस्ट राइटिंग ऑल दैट आई न्यू, बट व्हेन द टाइम केम फॉर इट टू बी पब्लिश्ड एंड टू बी सोल्ड, आई जस्ट फेल्ट ओ माय गॉड, मैंने नहीं, what if people start judging me or saying things about me and whatnot and all of that. So it was actually my parents who gave me the confidence कि you know what, don't worry about what people think and just do what you think is right. You're honest and authentic, go ahead. Musharraf ने भी मुझे कहा don't think of the 10 people who might say, let them say if they want to say. Think of the wider readership जिसमें so many women will be able to relate to it and say okay, we are not alone. And you know, that is the reaction actually that I've got from 90% of the people who've read, that we could see ourselves in it, or we found courage in this, or we felt कि you know ऐसे भी होता है या इसको इस तरह से देखा जा सकता है. So I mean, I've broken away from the traditional. I could have kept a very sweet girl जिसने कुछ गलत नहीं किया, उसके साथ 3 चीज़ें गलत हो रही हैं. I did not want to do that. So starting from my dedication, dedicated to both women and men who have battled with dark days, because men do too, and who have persevered. That's my dedication. So the novel is not about एक बिचारी मजलूम औरत. It's about, you know, the consequences of certain decisions first taken by parents. उसकी repercussions क्या होते हैं, and a girl who is not allowed to, you know, be herself, उसकी क्या repercussions होते हैं. You either completely break, or you do something which is not okay for you, which is not healthy, or there's so many consequences जो हो सकते हैं. आप सख्त इंसान बन सकते हैं, आप unempathetic आपकी I think बहुत सारी चीज़ें हो सकती हैं. And also I've gone, you know, the men जो मैंने जैन जो दिखाया है, so my characters are not entirely all bad or all good. नूर को भी आप पढ़ के इरिटेट होंगे कई पॉइंट पे कि अब what is wrong with her, मतलब क्यों क्रिब करे जा रही है. So I wanted to show a real character. हाँ, I mean, so I mean, what I mean is that I'm showing real characters. So, and in showing real characters, maybe I have moved away from the traditional कि ये चीज़ की बात ना करो. I want to talk about women desire also. I wanted to talk about women's and a man's perspective, and he's irritated by her also. She's constantly complaining. So I'm trying to show real characters in a traditional setting, but undergoing their own experiences.
Right. So you talked about reaction. So reaction, एक तो हमने जनरल आपने बात की, but what have the reactions so far from different age groups, from both genders? क्या आपको एक unique कोई आपको feedback मिला हो, something that stuck with you?
So many people have said, you know, that हमने बड़ी देर बाद कोई novel 1.5 दिन में ख़त्म किया है, non-stop पढ़ा है. ये मुझे बहुत मिला है. And then mostly from women, that you know, we see so much of ourselves in this story. We can feel every bit of what she's feeling. Then and then also a lot of people commented on the easy style. And then my son's friend said to me कि I read it, I enjoyed it a lot, and you know, I just for the first time realized how a woman may be feeling in this. मैंने नहीं ऐसे सोचा था. So that was encouraging for that young boy to say कि you know, I could understand my mother perhaps, or women ऐसे भी सोचती हैं, kind of a thing. And then my son's another young person read, and she said that this is so, I mean, ठीक है, your mom is writing it, she's so much older, but she's writing, I mean, it's very young. So मुझे नहीं, so ये भी एक comment आया. So by and large अल्लाह का शुक्र है, it's been well received. जितने लोगों ने पढ़ा है उन्होंने अच्छा ही कहा है. ठीक है,
that brings me to my last question, but a very important question. कि first book is out,
yes,
well received, well sold as well. Musharraf keeps telling me, और हमने reviews सारा कुछ देखा है. So what's next? Are there any projects in pipeline? Is there particular angle you are thinking about, or you're taking a break for now?
No, I'm going to be writing soon, inshallah. So there is a story that I've been thinking about, but that story requires some kind of research. I'll have to go to Peshawar for that, and you know, because it's set in the 1800s. So उसके लिए काफ़ी, so Musharraf said उसके लिए आपको बहुत, I mean, I can't just start writing that. I need to sort of immerse myself in that setting first. So I am thinking about that story. I'm also thinking of other stories, and then I'll decide which one comes first. But I know for sure that I'm going to be, inshallah, writing till I exist.
That's wonderful. But so is he I won't say patron, but something around societal,
yes,
topics and
yes,
challenges and stereotypes. So you want to keep addressing these, and yes, you want to talk more about these things.
I do. I want to write simple, heartfelt, honest stories simple stories of human beings and relationships and motives and motivations, and that's what I want to write about.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you so much for your time. It was lovely talking to you, and all the very best for your next books.
Thank you, Amar. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.